What's up guys, Tommy Bowyer here from Movie Rewind, and today I'll be reviewing Casualty Series 33. So without further ado, let's get into it. The 33rd series of Casualty premiered on the 11th of August 2018 and concluded after 46 episodes on the 10th of August 2019. There will be spoilers in this review, so if you haven't seen Series 33, I would suggest watching it before you watch this video. Series 33 is a very strong series of Casualty, and I think that's primarily down to the work of series producer Lousie Tyler. Now, if you've watched this channel for a couple of years, you will know that I was very fond of Tyler's time in charge of the programme. I feel she is someone who really understood what made Casualty great, and she comes up with a great series here. The series starts with a great motorway pile-up, which is just Casualty stunt work at its best. I mean, I remember the hype around these episodes because everything was going to change after this episode, and I have to say the episode itself, very well made. From the acting to the writing to the directing, it's Casualty at its best. And that motorway pile-up and the events of that motorway pile-up, including the death of beloved paramedic Sam Nicholls, really does push the series forward. It kind of, all the threads that come out of this series come directly from that motorway pile-up, and I love when just one event changed the lives of literally every single character in the ED. I just think that was done very, very well. Series 33 was marketed as the year of the paramedic, when Casualty was finally going to give the paramedics their turn in the limelight, and I have to say, I really enjoyed the focus on the paramedic staff. I think Series 33 marks the beginning of the paramedics' dominance of the programme, which continues to this very day, and I think they did a great job making that decision and focusing on the paramedics who, over the last few years before Series 33, they were kind of left in the background, so it's great the series started to focus on them again. And obviously Series 33 is unique for marking a crossover with sister show Holby City for the first time in years. Now, it was Holby City's 20th anniversary in 2019, so they decided to celebrate the event they would do a proper crossover with Casualty, and I have to say I really enjoyed this crossover. It's great to just see characters who you don't usually see interact, especially Dylan Keogh with the Holby City staff. Dylan's just brilliant. He's so sarcastic and he's so funny. He just works great with the Holby City staff. So Series 33, it has a lot to offer, and I think that's down to Raffetti. She is just someone who just knew how to make good Casualty. As I have said many times though, a series of Casualty is only as good as its characters, and as Series 33 was marked as the year of the paramedic, I think it makes sense to focus on the paramedics. Firstly, Ian Dean. He is the standout character of the series. His mental health storyline was done so well. There was so much time dedicated to it, and I just think it's a very well done storyline. Michael Stevenson, he finally gets the opportunity to show how great an actor he is, and I have to say, as someone who has suffered from mental health in the past, I like how this storyline plays out. I like how we see that the motorway collision and his guilt over Sam's death results in a downward spiral. How he eventually gets depression, it gets worse, he lashes out, and in the end, he tries to take his own life. And I love how I've seen storylines like this done before in other programmes, and when it gets to the point where there's an attempted suicide, they then kind of gloss over the recovery. But Casualty actually dedicates a lot of time to showing the aftermath. It shows how Ian's mental health is very fragile after those events and how it takes him months to recover. And I love how by the end of Series 33, we see that Ian is on the road to recovery, especially when he is able to talk down a police officer from committing suicide herself. I just think that was a great way to show how much Ian has moved on and been able to really reflect on his mental health and do something about it. So I really think that the mental health storyline was done well in this series. Obviously, Ian's mental health storyline also gives a lot for the other paramedics to do. We see paramedic Ruby Spark. Love Ruby Spark. Underrated character. Maddie Hill, such a great actor. And I love Ruby's storylines. I love her friendship with Ian. I think it works very well. I love how she is one of the only ones who can tell that Ian's mental health is struggling, because Ruby spends the majority of her time with him because obviously they're partners. So obviously she's going to be the first one to notice that Ian is not himself. So I think that Ruby's a great character and I love her storylines. And we also see more of Jan. Now Jan was supposed to be a recurring character in series 32, but I think Casualty knew that they had found a great actor in Di Botcher, so they decided to give Jan more to do, and I think her storylines are great. I love the stuff with her son Ross, how he's a drug dealer and how she's, you know, she's trying to not let him worm his way back in, but at the end of the day, he is her son. Of course she's going to try and support him as much as she can, and it also shows how when Ian does attempt suicide, how that affects both Ruby and Jan, with Ruby feeling incredibly distressed about the situation and Jan feeling guilty that she was his boss and she didn't notice. So I think it shows how mental health and attempted suicide can affect everyone around you, and I think Casualty did a great job of that, especially focusing on the paramedic side of things. Other storylines we have in series 33, I really enjoyed Duffy's vascular dementia storyline. Vascular dementia is one of those things which I don't think enough people talk about, because it is a very quick form of dementia. You know, it does affect an individual very, very quickly, and I like how Casualty showed that, especially taking such a beloved character like Duffy, an original character of the show, showing how it can affect her and how her judgment begins to slip because obviously the vascular dementia is affecting her. I think they did a great job, and it's also interesting because Charlie and Duffy were kind of shown as this rock solid couple. You know, nothing could come between them. But then early in this series, Duffy cheats on Charlie. Yes, because of her dementia, it's affecting her. But they do break up for a time. And I have to say, I was devastated. Because obviously you wait so long for Charlie and Duffy to get together and eventually get married. And then they seem to break up. But I also like how the vascular dementia, it doesn't just affect Duffy. Once again, it's one of those things which affects everyone in the ED, because everyone cares about Duffy. No one wants to see her go through this, especially Charlie. And I like how Charlie tries to protect Duffy and keep the secret from the others for as long as humanly possible. Plus we get some great acting from Kathy Shipton. She clearly researched into vascular dementia, and she gives some very good performances which really will tug on your heartstrings when you see how much Duffy is suffering. We also see Dylan Keogh get a new romance this series. We see him paired up with recovering alcoholic Kira, and I have to say, Dylan and Kira's romance is an underrated gem of series 33, and I was really hoping that them two were going to get together by the end of the series. Unfortunately they didn't, because obviously Kira had an abusive husband, and eventually she decided that she had to start afresh, and that meant leaving Dylan behind, which was devastating. But I do like their romance. I think it was a very good romance. The actors clearly have great chemistry between them, and it was nice to see Dylan kind of have a bit of happiness for a short period of time. Dylan's one of those characters which doesn't get many happiness in the show, but I'm glad he got a bit of happiness with Kira. I just wish that she had stayed, because I think those two worked very well together. We get a few departures in series 33, and I think the majority of them are handled well. Firstly, we get Alicia Munroe. She departs during this series to accept a new job in Manchester. And I have to say, I thought Alicia's departure was handled with a lot of care and attention, which reflected on her stint at Holby ED. I remember reading that Chelsea Halfpenny wanted to depart after series 32, but her and the producers kind of came to the conclusion that the rape storyline, which Alicia had been involved in, shouldn't just end immediately. It should show how a victim of rape can recover and can rebuild their life. So I'm glad that Alicia stayed on for a few months. Plus, we got to see her reconnect with her ex, Ethan. And I have to say, I've said it before and I'll say it again, Ethan and Alicia are one of my favourite pairings. They just work so well together. And it was devastating in her final episode when Ethan proposed and Alicia turned him down. But I can understand. Alicia needed to make a fresh start, and Ethan's home was Holby ED. So she weren't going to take him away from that, but she knew she couldn't stay. So I thought Alicia's departure, yeah, it was heartbreaking to see. Nurse Lousie Tyler departs, and once again, I really like what they do with Louise's character in this series. I like how we see her lose faith in the NHS, you know. She's already struggling financially. She's having to go to food banks, which is actually something that I don't think enough people talk about. A lot of NHS staff actually struggle to afford to live, you know, even though they work for the NHS. So I'm glad that Casualty kind of showed the reality of being a nurse. And I love Louise's final scenes when she kind of goes into Charlie and says, you know, this isn't working. This entire NHS is falling apart, you know, and she decides to walk away. I think it was a very good exit for a character which has always been able to speak her mind, no matter how controversial her opinions are. So yeah, I think Louise's departure was handled well. And also we see Consultant Elle depart. Now, Elle is one of those characters that I had a lot of hope for in Series 31. I thought she was great, you know. In this series, they don't do a lot with her. We kind of see a friendship with Connie develop. And we see once Connie is assaulted, because Connie's assaulted early on in this series, she kind of isolates herself, she blocks everyone out, and in the end she kind of bullies Elle out of her job. I mean, Elle's fine, she accepts a clinical lead position at another ED, but I don't know, I just always feel that Elle's departure could have been handled a bit better. You know, I'm not saying it was bad or anything, I just feel it was a little underwhelming compared to the departures of Alicia and Louise, which I think were handled very well. As for new characters, we get new nurses Jade Lovall and Marty Kirkby, and I have to say, I really enjoy these two characters. Jade is a very interesting character, she's a deaf character, the first regular deaf character in Casualty, and I think they handle that very well. They would go on to do so much more with it in later series, but I think in Series 33, Jade's a likeable character, and I do like Marty as well. I think they go the traditional route of having a gay character trying to conceal from his parents that he is gay, and I get why Casualty do it, to show that, you know, people, even in the modern world, even though, you know, homosexuality is a lot more accepted than it used to be, people often struggle to come out to their parents and loved ones. So I can understand why Casualty do that storyline, but I just think it's been done before. You know, we've seen that kind of storyline done before. So yeah, I like Jade and Marty as characters. I just think that, you know, it's quite stereotypical what they do with Marty's storyline. We also get some new doctors arrive. We get Archie, Hudson and Will Noble, and these two characters, now this might be controversial, I think they could have done a lot more with these two. You know, Archie is supposed to be this headstrong, determined registrar, and they don't do a lot with her. They kind of create a feud between her and Connie, which I think has potential, but they don't really seem to go anywhere with it, so that was a bit disappointing. And as for Will, you know, I like Will as a character. I think he's very charismatic. He reminds me a lot of a Cow in many ways. But once again, I don't think they do a lot with him. He's kind of just there, you know, and it's a shame because obviously you've got two really great actors there and I can see potential in these characters. I just don't think that the show ever takes advantage of that, really. And lastly, I would like to talk about the series finale, which is once again a very well done episode, and it sees the conclusion of Connie Beacham's drug addiction storyline. Now, early in Series 33, viewers were dealt a shock when it was confirmed that Amanda Mealin would be taking a sabbatical from Casualty for a few months. So the writers decided to push the character to her absolute limits. We see her attacked by an unknown assailant, and in order to try and cope with that and recover from that, she becomes addicted to diazepam. And I think I've seen many drug addiction storylines in Casualty. I think Connie's one is one of the best because it shows that even a really strong character like that can succumb to inner demons. And I think it's handled with a lot of care, it's handled with a lot of attention. It shows when someone is addicted to something, how desperate they will become and how they will just change as a person. We also get, as part of this storyline, Kieran Coulson introduced. Now, Kieran Coulson is brought into the ED because apparently it's failing, and he starts a feud with Connie. And I have to say, Kieran is a great character. He's quite a villainous character, and I think it works. Connie needed someone who she could have a rivalry with, and I think Kieran really did fit that. Plus, I think the finale is very well handled. I especially like the scene where Connie sits down with Charlie, and obviously Connie's stitched Duffy up. She's used Duffy's dementia against her in order to cover her own tracks. And Charlie just says, go. Just leave now. And it's so cold. It is so cold. Great acting by Amanda Meelan and Derek Thompson. And yeah, Connie just gets up and leaves. And I remember after that episode aired, I just sat there for a couple of minutes, just like in shock. I was like, oh my God, Connie's gone. And it was Charlie that told her to leave. Like, it was just such a shocking moment. And it's always stuck in my mind. So I think this is a really memorable finale for Series 33 to have. So in conclusion, Series 33 has some standout character-driven storylines, such as Ian's mental health storyline and Connie's drug addiction storyline. I think the great thing about character-driven storylines is it gives the actors a chance to show how great they are. You know, Michael Stevenson was amazing during Ian's mental health storyline. Amanda Meelan really came into the limelight with the drug addiction storyline for Connie. So it just shows if you have really compelling storylines and amazing actors, you've got a great series of Casualty. And honestly, I still remember watching Series 33 to this very day. I have fond memories of watching Series 33. And obviously, this was the first full series I did mini reviews for on YouTube. So yeah, it does hold a special place in my heart for me because it's where my mini reviews began. So anyway, yeah, Series 33, an outstanding series. So thanks for watching, guys. I really do hope that you enjoyed this video. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe in order to receive great and maybe even improved quality content in the future. And I will see you in another one. See ya!